Part 6, Chapter 11. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rhodes was a priest. At least, that's what his men called him behind his back. Father Rhodes. They joked that the pinnacle of his career would not be making general, but pope. The trim 54-year-old officer didn't drink. He never swore. And he had the Bible, Old Testament and New, loaded on the hard drive of his laptop. He believed in killing, but only if an adversary struck first. That didn't mean they had to kill first, just attack. The Bible went along with him on that. The commandment, historically mistranslated, did not forbid killing, only murder. And it wasn't murder to kill an oppressor. It was justice. As he stood on the floodlit tarmac at McMurran Air Force Base, his grey buzzcut bristling in the rotor wash of the Black Hawk helicopter, Rhodes had to fight to keep from swearing as he waved on the 4 men who were running towards him. A B-3, possibly down, with 2 nuclear missiles on board and the potential for deadly, widespread radioactive contamination. This was what he had feared when he first heard of the plan. And it was exactly the kind of Armageddon scenario the Bible talked about in Revelation 16:17. And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air. When the men arrived, he urged them on with a look. They clambered into the combat assault chopper, which was equipped with a cargo hook with an external lift capacity of 8,000 pounds. If the plane had gone down, and it was safe enough to get close, Rhodes hoped that they'd be able to recover the bombs at least and bring them back. As Rhodes was about to get on board, 2 beeps of a horn stopped him. He looked behind him as a jeep pulled up, and Colonel Wilkins climbed from the passenger's side. "Sam!" The stockier, older, balding officer yelled to be heard over the rotor. The men exchanged salutes. "Yes, Max?" asked Rhodes. He replied loudly, "I just wanted to tell you, face to face, not to do anything reckless." "Such as?" Wilkins made a face. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. If those nukes are hot, I don't want you sticking around as penance." Rhodes nodded once. Wilkins's beefy face grew stern. "I mean it, Sam. I know this is your home state and you were opposed to the drill to begin with. But if there's a problem, let the experts handle it. Do I have your word on that?" "You do," Rhodes said. "But I'll tell you this. Somebody really blew it. And we're going to find out who, how, and why." "No argument there," Wilkins said. "And when we do, it'll be an eye for an eye. I promise." With a grateful smile and another salute, Rhodes climbed into the hatch. Seconds later, the powerful General Electric turboshafts whining, the black chopper rose quickly and disappeared into the night. Chapter 12. White House Chief of Staff Mason Baird rubbed his 3 a.m. shadow as he entered the Situation Room at the Pentagon. "So," he said, "now that we're all up and jump-started with caffeine, do I wake the president?" His assistant, Giles Prentice, followed him in, his baby face red from a quick, latherless shaving. Baird's question was greeted by a long silence from the other men and women in the brightly lit chamber. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Jeff Dreyfus, stared at his tightly folded hands. Air Force General Nick Creeley looked down into his black coffee. Their collective team of 14 assistants and deputies, in uniforms or suits, looked at one another across the long black conference table, or at telephones, fax machines, computer monitors, keyboards, and the backlit maps on the walls. Finally, Dreyfus spoke. "Where is the president?" In Las Vegas, Baird said as he took the only free seat. Giles stood behind him. Computer convention. Some warmed-over information superhighway crap. Baird scooted the chair noisily, then lifted his wire-rimmed glasses and rubbed his eyes. The remnants of sleep didn't want to leave as he thought back bitterly to nearly 30 years ago when he was a gung-ho first selectman in a small town in Connecticut. Late-night meetings were a cinch then, and he had used to use them to wrest concessions from the tired, older second selectman. Now that he was a tired, older White House chief of staff who had been torn from bed by a knock at the door just 37 minutes before, he had a desire to go back and smack his cocky, younger self. Not to mention Major Harry Hall, the officer who had been sent to fetch him and Giles hither. Of course, it was ironic that he had had loads of energy back when he had to worry about things like the budget for the Little Red Schoolhouse and the volunteer fire department, not a missing B-3 and a pair of nuclear bombs. The chairman filled his barrel chest and said, "You don't have to wake him, Mace, but let's make sure his staff knows. We don't want him to hit the remote in the morning and hear about it from Bryant Gumbel." Baird nodded. "Sounds like a plan. What else?" The chairman pointed to the computer monitor to Baird's right. He tapped the keys on his own PC and a document appeared on Baird's screen. "We're going out with this," Dreyfus said. "Rick's team prepared it." Baird stole a quick look at portly, bearded Richard Myers. He could tell from the Pentagon press liaison officer's cherubic smile that he had gone for the sweet lie. Baird mumbled as he read. "United States Air Force regrets to announce a C-130 heavy-lift cargo plane went down over the Utah desert. Status of the crew has not been determined at this time, yada yada yada." He looked at Myers. "Nice bullshit, Rick." "Thank you," said Myers. Baird heard Giles's new shoes squeak as he shifted behind him. "No, wait, we're making a mistake," the 30-year-old said. Baird half turned. His look said, "Why are you contradicting me, Bernie?" He asked flatly. "Why do you think that, Bernie?" Giles either failed to catch the look or, more likely, didn't care. The kid had strong opinions. "Aviation Week has been following the B-3 for years," Giles said. "They've got stringers who take their vacations in Knob Noster, Missouri, so they can sit in a lawn chair all night long by the Whiteman perimeter fence just in case a B-3 takes off. Sirs, the boys in those lawn chairs know a B-3 took off tonight. They're going to know when it doesn't come back. And when we put out a press release saying that a C-130 went down in Utah, they're going to run a story about what really happened. Then everyone will know the truth, and we're going to look really stupid." "Thank you, Giles," Baird said. "You have a good point." He looked at Dreyfus. "But there's something else to consider, and that is, do we really need this?" "I agree," said General Mike Schneider, recently returned from the DMZ between North and South Korea. "Who the hell reads Aviation Week anyway?" "For starters," said Giles, "the military reporters at Time, Newsweek, and the Washington Post." "Okay." Baird held up a hand. "Another good point. But we can deny this stronger than a guy in a lawn chair can prove it." "We sure can," Myers agreed. Baird said, "Think of what'll happen if the truth comes out in a time of budgetary austerity. that a secret $27 billion new plane program has been going on, and that roughly 1/9 of that money might be a pile of useless crap somewhere in Utah. General Snyder added, "And then the president and the Pentagon will have the environmentalists up their butts because the bomber might have gone down in a national park with a couple of nuclear warheads that could be leaking." "Yeah, why should anyone worry about something like that?" Dreyfus added. He looked at Giles. "What do you suggest?" Giles shrugged. "These are all valid points, but if it were up to me, I'd just say a B-3 went down. Report that it was FOD'd. Air Force General Nick Creeley sighed. "Foreign object damaged. Northrop's gonna love that." "They'll live," said Dreyfus. Schneider shook his head. "What are you going to tell the press? That a bird flew into the engine? Isn't that rather unlikely with the B-3, Nick?" Creeley said, "It's unlikely, but plausible. And for the record, I agree with Giles. A simple dose of the truth will earn us a respectful period of grace from AW, but a lie will turn them into pit bulls." Baird exhaled loudly. He gave Rick an apologetic look. "Rewrite it," he said. Rick continued to smile, though now it fell short of his eyes. "And say what?" "Exactly what Giles just said." "Yes, sir," Rick said glumly. Baird half turned back to Giles again. "You got a toothbrush?" "Sir?" "I want you in Utah as soon as possible," Baird said. "I want to know everything that's going on. I want you to make sure that the plane went nowhere near the Uintah and Ouray Indian Reservation, and that no one there is upset. I want to know if an owl shits funny from possible radiation." "You want to know everything," Giles repeated. "Right, and one more thing." Baird's gaze shifted to Dreyfus. "If this turns out to be sabotage, we don't go to trial. We go to General Quirk at the CIA and General Roger Michaels at the National Crisis Management Center. This baby's the next generation of our national defense, and the person or persons responsible will be maximally demoted." Dreyfus and Creeley didn't say a word, but Schneider gave Baird an enthusiastic thumbs up.